Hello, friends. This week on the Livvin for Food pod, I have a wonderful content creator whose job is to quite literally play with fire. Derek Wolf started his own company, Over the Fire Cooking, almost 7 years ago, and since then, he has seen constant growth. We chatted grilling tips, we talked about the current caveats of social media, and we got into the misconceptions of cooking with fire. Ironically, after I ended recording this podcast episode, I had left my gas stove on, which relates a lot to this episode. All was good, but I thought that was a little bit ironic. So please join me in welcoming my wonderful conversation with Derek Wolf.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so I was looking back and I realized it's been a year since we last
It
chatted
has.
because I chatted with August
Yeah.
2022. But you were one of my first interviews, like way back when, like for the new platform that we were publishing on, I remember, and you were like the first one.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, you were. And then that was when your second cookbook, Flavor by Fire, came out as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. That was a long time ago.
It was. Do you have any other cookbooks in the works?
No, I'm going to
No.
take a little break.
That's fair. I mean, do you post every single day or?
No, we're going back and forth on it actually right now, but I traditionally have posted every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then I will post like one time on the weekend.
Okay.
But social is really evolving, and I don't feel it's almost beneficial to not post as often. So we're kind of trying to see if we need to taper it back or not. It's hard because I come from a different social media generation when I started that would say like post as often as possible.
Right.
And I don't feel like that carries the same weight as it once did.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's so saturated now, and people are so overflowed with content that if you don't post every day, some people aren't even going to see it anyways. And then the algorithm, I'm pretty sure, is just messed up right now because
Yeah.
numbers are weird.
Yeah, actually that's been a big topic of convo with a lot of my friends. I mean, I feel like a lot of our engagement at like some beginning of August like got cut in half out of nowhere. And it's even some big people as well. It's really not, it's a weird, social is weird right now, but it is August. Gary Vee always posts something during August to remind people that everybody's going back to school, everybody's taking their last vacations before going back to school, all that stuff. So it is always a huge dip.
Yeah. Okay, that's true. I'll keep that in mind when I post our podcast next week.
That's fair.
Yeah, so I want to get into your background a bit. I remember talking about your story and how you started Over the Fire Cooking, your business and your brand, that you needed a break from the corporate job. So you started doing something that inspired you on the weekends, and that was cooking and editing for social media. When was the moment that you felt like, F it, I'm leaving the corporate world, I'm going to do content creation for good?
Yeah. So when we first started the page, I was working in corporate America and I had like literally no experience cooking. It was a different
Mhm.
time, but like my initial start on the page was like resharing content that inspired me. It was like a Pinterest page at the beginning. And then when I started posting my own stuff, we like really started exploding and doing well. And I worked in my job for almost 2 years, so really not a long time. And my wife had a really fantastic finance job, and she's always been like super supportive. And so, gosh, it was just like it. We had just finished up summer, and I looked at her and I said, I think I could make something out of this. She was excited about it. And I mean, she didn't mind coming home to cooked food every night. So she said she had just gotten a promotion. She was like, like we'll set some milestones. So I had been doing it for about a year and a half, and really hadn't gotten this crazy, crazy following. And then that's when we kind of just decided to take the leap. I really didn't have too much, in my opinion, to go off of, and we weren't making like a lot of money, but I just
Mhm.
thought if I don't try, I would be upset. I would regret it. So we just went for it, and yeah, and then kind of jumped into the deep end.
Yeah, that's interesting. Are you still, we kind of touched upon this before, but are you still feeling the growth in your page that you first experienced when you started out? Or do you feel like it's a lot of people who have been following you since the beginning?
No, I definitely have a lot of growth, but it's different now. When I first started, Instagram was everything.
Hmm.
Facebook was there, but Instagram was the primary place for people to be making content in that style of content. And there was really not a good competitor. And so, when I first jumped on, it was all photography. And so that's what we were doing in the beginning. The growth for me has been is in the past like 2 to 3 years right after COVID, Instagram, TikTok came in, and I just realized that there's a bigger space in social. Everything had been kind of segregated. You were on Instagram, or you were on YouTube, or you were on TikTok. There was no like, not a lot of people were traversing all of them, and there were definitely people, but not a lot. And so we decided to kind of expand into that world, and every platform has been extremely different and attracts very different people. I jokingly say it's like they're like different countries and different cultures, and they have different currency. Like the followings on each one mean different things. So like on YouTube, to get one follower is more pricey. Like they have more value in one follower than maybe like TikTok. TikTok, it's easy to gain like 100 followers very quickly. But it doesn't mean that they're going to be
Right.
actively engaged followers all the time. Whereas YouTube, like people like it, I don't know, when they buy into you, they are like a subscriber for life.
Okay.
So it's been different in the growth. So Instagram kind of changed that world for me, and I started to grow there. And then we really started to grow on YouTube. We started to grow on Pinterest. We started to grow on TikTok
Oh,
and Facebook. All of them. We're everywhere.
you can post videos on Pinterest?
Yeah, yeah. Idea pins. We were doing just normal pins, video pins, about 3 years ago, right after COVID, and we started to see a lot
Okay.
of growth. But it really depends on your goal too. Like, I don't necessarily come from a only entertainment recipe development. I try and give people usable recipes. So if you're on Pinterest, you usually are doing it because you have a blog that you're trying to push people towards.
Got it. So you feel like YouTube is probably the has the most value monetarily?
I don't know if it's monetarily. I would say it's harder to gain a subscriber on YouTube. Growth on YouTube is extremely hard compared to any of the other platforms. I would say that some platforms are easier than others to get a lot of following. It just depends on what you're what you're doing. But I think that it all comes down to like the what you're producing, the quality of what you're producing, and then the energy that you're producing it. So like I think YouTube can create probably the most avid following in recent years. Like if I'm ever recognized in public or if I'm ever seen or doing anything, I can tell where they're following me.
Oh, that's it.
Like, I think TikTok tends to be very casual, or it tends to be obviously a younger crowd, from like late teens to early 20s. Instagram and Facebook tends to be old, like a little bit older, like, you know, 30s, maybe even early 40s, because that's a lot of the millennial generation now. And then YouTube is really funny. If I ever, it's either YouTube is less on age, it's more just like on excitement. I mean, those people that are actively following on YouTube are avid fans, and so they're the ones that always want to like get a photo or do something with me or whatever. It's always so funny. So it's interesting to see how it's grown. It only started on Instagram, and now we're on every major platform. And it's interesting to see how those platforms attract different types of people.
Have you had any weird fan interactions or anything? Because I'm surprised by that because I don't feel like you put your face really in the videos, but if they're avid, I mean, watchers, then they would know exactly who you are. So,
Yeah, I would agree with you. I always thought it was kind of weird that I get recognized because I'm not necessarily like putting my face consistently into the videos all the time. They're always at the end when I take my bite shot. But yeah, I haven't really had any like weird encounters with fans or anything like that at all. I do remember one time early, like maybe like 2 years into it, I was traveling with my wife and her family, and my father-in-law, he's like super old school blue collar worker, union electrician,
mhm,
and so it was hard for him to understand what I was doing, but he would get so excited because he loves grilling. Anyway, long story
mhm.
short, we were traveling out to Seattle to visit my wife's best friend who had just had a baby. And he was in the airport and he was jokingly saying, like, man, Derek, like, you keep this up, you might be like, somebody might recognize you one day. And so we get on
Mhm.
our Southwest flight. You can sit anywhere you want. So we're all sitting together, and this kid is walking down the aisle, and I'm sitting on the outside. And I'm just looking at my phone, and this kid like stops and he backs up and he looks at me. He's like, are you Derek Wolf?" And I was like, "Yeah," thinking like maybe I knew him from high school or something. Like I don't know. I didn't. I and he's like, "Dude, I love your content." And I look over, and my father-in-law is just like, "Oh my gosh, it happened." So that was one of the funnier moments for me. Yeah, he tells that story all the time. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a really cool journey so far.
That's incredible. Well, that says a lot about how you're influencing people in the kitchen, but you're also entertaining them because your videos, I feel like they're pretty quick, at least in my opinion, but I think they're really, really interesting too.
Well, thank you. We try really hard.
You're welcome. I'm curious though, do you find that your audience is more male oriented?
Yeah, it definitely is. And it does slightly depend on the platform, but almost almost all my platforms are heavily male focused in the audience. Pinterest is probably my only one that's closer to 50-50, and I think that that's just because it tends to be a platform that is more attractive for females. So,
Right.
overall, it's probably like 70% men, 30% female.
Okay. Where are you located? Are you in the Midwest?
No, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, so I'm in the southeast.
Oh, I've had some fun times in Nashville.
Yeah,
It's a
a
good
lot of
time.
people have.
Do you stay away from Broadway?
Oh, with everything inside of me. Yeah. It's great. I mean, I love what it's done for the city. We have so many amazing things and amenities because of it. But yeah, I definitely stay away as much as possible.
I actually remember I was there with my sister and my best friend, and we did one of the pedal
Oh
taverns.
yeah.
And we were pedaling away, but I had my debit card in my back pocket. And I wasn't even drinking at that point. Like, I was totally sober. Whatever, I lost my debit card
Yeah.
and then it fell right on the street. And then actually noticed a message these past few weeks from 2 years ago saying a woman found
Oh,
it
really?
on the street.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I missed the message and I just canceled it. It got a new one.
Yeah.
But yeah, Nashville is an interesting time for sure. So, because you are mostly self taught, did you cook at all as a kid, or was that something that came to you later on?
Yeah, so I didn't necessarily go to any professional culinary school or anything like that. I think that's somewhat obvious for the big chefs in my cooking content, but I would say I grew up in a family that just loved to cook. So my dad had me like helping him grill from a young age. And my mom used to be really creative in some of her recipes. Honestly, a lot of the stuff that I grew up with was my mom taking leftovers and like finding unique ways to like put it all together. And so we would do that like every
Hmm.
Thursday night. My mom would take all the leftovers because we'd always go out, usually go out to dinner on a Friday. And my mom would cook Monday through Thursday. Yeah, she would always find these like super cool ways and things. Honestly, usually the best dinner was Thursday, and it wasn't even the one that was like fully planned out.
Hmm.
So I always loved playing. I loved the concept of making unique things with food from a really young age. And then I had a huge privilege of growing up in like an upper middle class family, so we were able to afford doing a lot of things. And so we traveled a lot and we tried to go and experience all kinds of food. So I had a lot of experience from a young age trying all kinds of different food from Italian to French to just all kinds of stuff. And it wasn't until later in my life I really started to appreciate some of that. We had a lot of fun doing that, and I was really most of our vacations or travel or really anything was normally centered around a culinary experience.
Hmm.
So I was just loved what food could do. Food was always just something that made me think of family and being together. And then it really wasn't until like late college that I started to kind of dive into like open fire cooking. So it was, yeah, it was kind of a slow process, but I always grew up really appreciating and loving food.
Yeah, I never understood people who don't make food their priority when they
I agree.
travel. I've always been like that. I need to look up the restaurants. I want to know what they're known for. I want to do all of that. And some people just don't, which is interesting.
I get it. My opposites attract, and my wife and her family are always about like the exploration piece. And so whenever like I grew up snowboarding, and they grew up on the mountain as well, and so I would always look forward to like the mid afternoon going down and getting like a hot cup of chili or something to like warm me up, and they were like packing ham and cheese, cold cheese sandwiches to eat on the mountain while they were and I was like,
Yeah.
oh man. So it's been a learning curve on that one to appreciate those things as well. I will always make a point to focus on food whenever I do travel.
Yes, I agree. Well, your wife works for you now, right? So, well, works with you,
I was about to say.
but she's probably, yeah,
Yeah,
with you.
no, I work for her. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I'm sure. But I'm sure she makes food the priority now because she kind of has
No,
to.
she does a really great job. We just got back from a big, and she is not a big seafood fan, and we went to this really, really nice two-star Michelin restaurant. I am not normally a Michelin star restaurant kind of guy, but I
Mhm.
really wanted to go to this one, but it was very seafood focused. So she definitely had
Okay.
to suck it up and eat some oysters and clams and stuff, and so she did a really great job on that. She's learning to appreciate it.
Oh, good. I will say oysters are an acquired taste.
They
They're a little
can
weird.
be. A lot of seafood can be if you didn't grow up with it.
Yeah, that's fair. I went to a Peruvian restaurant actually this past weekend, which I have never eaten Peruvian food before, but it was delicious. I think it was on a Michelin guide as well. I don't really do Michelin restaurants as much unless, I'm invited or something like that. But like it was really delicious. Have you tried Peruvian food at all?
Yes, I have. I love Peruvian food. A lot of the food though that I've had is probably more like street food, so maybe not anything like super duper classic or traditional.
With your experience and grilling with other chefs, and then you mentioned that you were around cooking as a kid, is there someone in the industry or otherwise that has inspired you at all? Doesn't have to be anyone famous, but
Yeah, yeah. Man, I have quite a few. I would say The my first like exposure to open fire cooking was from a chef named Francis Mallman. He is an Argentinian, open fire kind of gaucho style chef, and he kind of changed my opinion on the fact that like I thought that cooking with a fire meant you had to make hot dogs and hamburgers kind of thing. And so, you could always make steak and that kind of stuff, but like he really challenged it to say like, no, we can make all anything you want. We can make it over open fire. And so he was kind of the gateway for me to see open fire cooking. And then slowly over time, I've started to appreciate a bunch of different people. One of my good friends and mentors is a man named Stephen Reichlin. He's written multiple
Mhm.
cookbooks, best-selling cookbooks, and he's kind of like a barbecue grilling guru. And he's really done a lot of documentation on like traditional styles of making food. He's been a great inspiration for me. And then I have a lot of really close friends of mine that have been fantastic inspirations. One of my good friends, Brad Prose, he runs an account called Chilies and
Mhm.
Smoke. You know, he's just been somebody that has been very consistent. He has very creative ideas. Actually, I'm sure you have seen the viral smash burger tacos that just went through.
I,
So he was the one who started all that. He was the first one to kind of start doing it, and he's had even an article written about him. I want to say it was on one of the big food writing places. Anyway, long story short, he's just really creative. He likes to think outside the box. I grew up in quite a few different places, but he lives in Arizona, and I lived a portion of my life in West Texas. So we have a lot of similar
I,
appreciation for flavor profiles. So yeah, he's a lot of fun.
yeah, I remember when I interviewed you, I asked you about like the Big Mac dog,
Oh yeah.
that recipe. Yeah. Do you have any others that have been crazy viral since?
Yeah, we've had a lot of like different things that have gone really viral. I won't say that like a lot of the stuff that I've had that's done extremely well has not necessarily been as crazy as like the Big Mac dogs or anything like that, but I did a French onion steak pinwheel that got like
Oh,
10 or
wow.
12 million views. Probably the biggest one I've ever done though was like a birria grilled cheese, or more like a birria melt. So it was like the whole shredded beef, and then we added it onto toasted bread, and then dipped it into the classic consomme. And that one got like, oh man, uh, I'm actually looking at it right now. I'm gonna say it was
Okay.
like 20 million, like 20, 30 million views. So yeah, it did really well.
That's
But a lot of stuff that does extremely well for me tends to be just like traditional things with a small twist. A honey chili oil chicken wings, so like making traditional chili oil and then smoking fried chicken wings, stuff like that. Even things like animal style burgers, just like really done up, or hot honey garlic chicken wings. Sometimes I like to take like restaurant recipes, like Peter Luger's style of steak, and just try to make it in my backyard. They never are as crazy as like a smash burger taco, but
right. For the this just came to my head actually. Do you get more popular during the Super Bowl for appetizers? Do you find yourself busier during that time with like chicken wings and things like
so
that?
January and February tends to be hilariously enough some of my better like best engaging months.
Huh.
Everybody would think like from an engagement perspective, everybody thinks that summer because it's grilling season would be the best time, but funny enough, summer's okay.
True.
Leading up to the major holidays do really well, but like Memorial Day and 4th, Labor Day doesn't really have as much excitement around it. But yeah, Memorial Day and 4th tend to be huge. But my best time of year is holiday and then January, February, and then it kind of rounds out at the end of March. So yes, we do have a lot of appetizer
Interesting.
recipes that get hit up during Super Bowl.
Okay, because you wouldn't think that people are really cooking if they're in the winter or grilling outside. So
I
that's
wouldn't think
interesting.
that either, but the data says otherwise. So people love.
Yeah, I guess
I
so.
sometimes do wonder though if it is people cooking or it's them looking at food wishing that they could be outside cooking. I don't really know. A lot of my
Uh,
following as well is also in metropolitan areas, so like LA, New York. So I do think a lot of
yeah,
those people don't necessarily have as much ease of access to like open fire grilling and barbecue.
definitely not.
Yeah.
I don't.
Where are you based out of?
I'm in LA. I was living in Connecticut, but I moved to LA like 3 months ago. Um, but I definitely do not have access to a grill. I mean, some places do, but not in New York or something when you're living like a studio apartment. So that's interesting.
Where in LA are you at?
I'm in the West Hollywood area. Are you familiar with the areas here?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, so
I
that's where I am.
Cool. I was born in Thousand Oaks, and then I had a lot of family
Oh, really?
live in LA.
Oh, so do you come visit a lot?
Yeah, not as much as we used to. My grandparents were like the last ones that lived there, and now we don't really go as often since they've passed. But my aunt lives on the Big Island, and then we'll go out and see family like that every once in a while. But we tend to stay in the southeast. But I do miss the LA weather. Although I will ask, is the rain? Are you just having torrential hurricane weather right now?
Oh. Hurricane, tornado, earthquake, all of it.
Y'all had a tornado?
That's what my friend told me, but I didn't see that. Maybe it was somewhere like
Hmm.
more south. No, honestly, weirdly enough, my neighborhood is totally fine. I had zero flooding. I was expecting my car to be like flooded because the garage is underneath the apartment complex. So I thought it would be flooded, but there was not one drop of water. Our pool, we didn't even drain it before the hurricane, and it's totally fine. And I
Hmm.
walked outside yesterday and it was just like leaves on the ground. So I guess it was fine. I mean, the earthquake was a little scary, but I only got the tremor part of it, I believe. So nothing.
Huh. Crazy.
Yeah, I just thought it was like my neighbors moving or something. I didn't I didn't really recognize it was an earthquake until I got the notification on my phone.
Wow. Well, yeah. Definitely don't miss the earthquakes, that's for sure. But I get it. I moved to the southeast maybe like 15 years ago. We moved around a bunch, but yeah, I do miss the weather a little bit. We have very interesting weather. It's currently like 90 something degrees, but real feel is like 105 outside. So,
Ew.
and it's just all humid. It's just humidity.
Oh.
So,
And then you cook with fire outside?
yeah, I know. I'm very drenched in sweat by the end, but I love it.
Anything for the video.
Anything for the video, anything for the gram.
I noticed too. Okay, I did some digging on your LinkedIn, not to be a weirdo, but I do my research.
Nice.
I noticed you have a lot of marketing experience too. Do you think
I
that's
do.
has that helped you?
Yeah, so different pieces have definitely helped me. So like I studied statistical analytics in college,
Okay.
and kind of like my biggest piece in what I started with in the world when I jumped into like the corporate world and stuff was doing data analytics. And so understanding data, understanding trends and stuff like that has definitely given me a leg up when I first started social. So I think that that's been a big piece for me in kind of growing and seeing big changes and understanding quick changes. But overall, yeah, I have a lot of different marketing experience. I've had a lot of fun doing it, learning how to build good, telling a story well, or whatever, and captivating an audience. It helps when when you know certain details and how to hook people quicker. But there's a lot of people out there that are doing really great jobs that have little to no marketing experience. So
That's true. I mean, good for you. I did not do well in stats, so
yeah.
it was very confusing. But I also thought my career was going to be in math and science until I realized that my grades did not reflect that I'm good at math or science. So I quickly pivoted to my creative side. But when you
Well,
look at other content creators or businesses in general that seem to maybe not be getting the numbers that they should, do you recognize what they're doing wrong?
sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I will say that social is a lot more complex than it used to be. And every channel is like a different country. I mean, like every channel has or every platform is like a different country. So they all have different problems or pros and cons or whatever that you're kind of looking for and trying to understand. I think for me, like we're looking at like Instagram and even Facebook, so just Meta in general, engagement is terrible right now. You know, I've had a few pieces of content in the past couple weeks do extremely well, but I'm way more used to consistent content doing well, or content just consistently doing well. And that doesn't mean that they always go viral, but they're always hitting certain marks for me. And so I think that sometimes it's the content. Like I will say, my whenever anybody asks me like, Derek, what am I doing wrong? And I'll have a lot of young content creators, or I say young, a lot of these guys are sometimes older than me, but I mean just like they're young on the platform,
Okay.
and they're just trying to understand what they're doing wrong. And I always want to say, never ever blame the algorithm, because the truth is even if it is the algorithm, like I think on Instagram right now, the algorithm, whatever is going on, like I don't know what is going on, but you can still do well, but it's just a lot harder this month.
Yeah.
That being said, though, don't ever blame the algorithm, because the truth is like 75 to, you know, 90% of the time your content could be better. And I think that I don't want to ever look at the algorithm as like a crutch. Your original
That's
question was, can I look at people and see what they're doing wrong? Yes, I can, but it doesn't always mean that that's like gonna fix them overnight. I think the hardest piece about social is that it's a lot like weight loss or gaining muscle. It is not one quick fix. It is a myriad of small decisions made over a period of time, and they add up after a while. And so I think that it's hard on social because you can look at some other creators that just get it right like the first time. It's like a person that's born with, you know, incredible genetics. Like I don't know, there's nothing that you can do about it. There are content creators that are just good. They're just good. And then there are guys that have worked really hard for a really long time to figure out how to do it well. And so I wish I had a moment in the beginning that I saw a need. Like the big moment for me was when I saw that nobody was really doing the style tasty videos were extremely popular when I first started getting on. And things were starting to shift towards videos within the first 2 years of me being on social. And I
Mhm.
realized nobody was doing that for grilling and barbecue. And so I just started trying it.
On the niche.
Yeah, and people loved it because there's a huge audience for grilling and barbecue. And so it started with open fire cooking. Then I started diving more deeper into the different styles, open fire, smoking, grilling, all kinds of stuff. And so we started to grow really well off of all of that. But it was small decisions and learning how to do things differently. And now the content we made 5 years ago would flop completely right now because it just isn't what people are looking for. So it is about growth and changing and learning. But even then, like I still try things and it doesn't work. So I think
Yeah.
that while I would say I wish I could tell people exactly what they could be doing better by looking at their content, sometimes it's just throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks. So
Yeah. Well, this goes against every single thing you just said, but if you want to look at mine and tell me what I'm doing wrong,
I'm
let me
happy
know.
to. Sure, of course. Yeah.
Perfect. I feel like too with what you're doing, there's definitely an aspect of danger, especially for beginners or honestly anyone who is working with fire. Do you have any tips on how to do that safely? Have you had any mishaps yourself?
I've gotten really lucky that any of the mishaps that I've had have been corrected pretty quickly or haven't gotten into too much trouble. But who knows? Currently,
Yeah,
I'm actually smoking a pork butt right now, so who
I
knows?
bet.
The grill could be on fire for all I know, and you know, I don't know. There's
Do you
nothing I
need
can do
to go
about
run and check?
it. I know I'll be all right. But yeah, I can see. I will say the misconception about open fire cooking is that it's extremely dangerous. I do think that open fire cooking, I see a lot of similarities with like surfing. I grew up in a family that surfed. I mean, we lived in Southern California, but the one thing that like I remember my dad telling me, it's like, you know, it is extremely fun. It's once you get it, it's extremely addictive and really easy. But you always have to remember that the ocean will always destroy you. Like the ocean
Yes.
will do whatever it wants.
Hmm.
And so I think that learning to go with it and know and see the tells has been a big piece of that growth. And one of the things that I learned at the beginning from like nature. And so fire is nature. It is somewhat natural because it does naturally happen with like lightning strikes and all that stuff. But like I will say, even like wildfires, we have to appreciate like it it is as terrifyingly destructive as it is, it's also extremely beautiful.
Hmm.
And so we have to like it's just we have to appreciate its raw power. And so I think that every time I cook over open fire, I am always extremely careful. And I think that there are a lot of people that mis miscalculate how powerful fire can be. Whether it's just as simple as like you accidentally grab a cast iron skillet that was close to the fire and burn yourself, like I've burned myself many times, all the way to like, I mean, I'm cooking with fat and oil a lot. You know, just being extremely careful. Fat and oil want to be friends with fire and they make big fires. Yeah, understanding that, appreciating that, just knowing the dynamics of it. But it still doesn't, I mean, dude, I've caught things on fire. Luckily not in the recent few months have I done that, but like
Knock
I've
on
caught
wood.
in yeah, knock on wood. But like everybody, yeah, fire will do what it wants, just like the ocean. Like it has a mind of its own. And I think that that's the most fun part about and why I jumped into open fire cooking is because I really loved the concept that every cook, no matter what you intend on doing with it, you have to learn to deal with the fire and understand what it's saying and then just let it do what it wants to do. And I think that it's kind of I don't know, it's a lesson in life. Like there are things that you have absolutely no control over. You just have to learn to mold and bend with what they have. And I think it's so funny because I'm definitely somebody that likes to control the
Oh,
uncontrollable. And so
me.
this has been a big piece in like just allowing food to be what it, or allowing the fire to do what it needs to do. Um, and that's even with open fire or even with like smoking and barbecue. I mean, it's a very true statement. Every cook is different. And then once you throw in
Hmm.
the other elements like wind and rain, heat, the food that you're cooking specifically, The humidity, the elevation, all of it changes. And it's really fun. It changes it. It makes it unique. It makes it a challenge every single time.
I relate to the control thing on a very deep level.
Yeah, I think most people do.
Yeah, I'm like, if it's that's why I stopped planning elaborate birthdays too, because I would try to bar hop or control when every single person was going to be there. And if it didn't work out, then we would miss our reservation. Then we would miss the next place we were going to. And it was very stressful. So I decided to take a step back from doing that and just be chill. Can't always control everyone else.
It's true. It's a hard lesson, and it's one thing that I still am not perfect at for sure. But what I do for a living helps me to get to a place of accepting, like, once that fire's lit, I have little to no control over it except to just allow it to do what it needs to do, read its cues, and try and cook the best that I can. And I think that's another fun thing that another piece that I add into it. Most of the recipes that I'm cooking, I literally thought of or written down, and I've never cooked them before. I've never
Ah,
touched them. Some of them I definitely have, but most of the time, like some of them are like, I'll do a different type of steak pinwheel and I had a good idea. So like I'll get better at doing it over time, but most of the recipes I've never done before. We're just kind of
okay,
having fun with it and see what happens. Like yesterday, I have a really good friend. He runs an account called Jort's Kitchen. He's really
okay.
funny, and he did salmon wrapped shrimp, so like super thinly sliced salmon wrapped around like jumbo tiger prawns. And I've never done it
Oh
before. And
wow,
I asked him, I was like, could I just make my own recipe with it? And
yeah,
he loved it. And I accidentally let the salmon get a little too room temperature. So when I started slicing it, it was not cold enough, not firm enough. So we had to throw that in the freezer for like 20 minutes to like get it up. So like I don't know. I like still made little mistakes as I was going, trying to figure it out. I
yeah.
love that.
What would you say is the most underrated ingredient or food to cook on the grill?
I think chicken thighs can be like, especially boneless chicken thighs. I don't cook them
Hmm.
enough on social because I feel like they don't look as sexy as like steak or chicken wings or like some of the other
Hmm.
things that you can cook. Some of the best food I've ever had though was like really well cooked grilled chicken thighs. So I
Ooh,
think that
okay.
that's probably one of the more underrated foods that you can cook over fire.
Okay. And because you're talking about like what looks sexy online, steak, cook a lot of steaks. So what's your go-to steak seasoning?
Ooh, I think probably the best overall is just going to be salt, pepper, garlic. Very very classic SPG. It has pretty much everything that you need there. But then I make my own seasonings as well, and so I have a couple of them that are really fun. I have
Spiceology, right?
yeah, with Spiceology. So I have a smoked garlic jalapeno lager, that was one of the beer infused seasonings that I have, but it's kind of like an amped
I
up
saw
salt, pepper,
that.
garlic. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I really like that one. If you want to kind of get a little smokier, spicier SPG on steak. And then I also have one called Bourbon Prime, where it's a bourbon infused, like super umami packed steak seasoning. And those are probably my two favorites when I'm cooking steak. I love mushroom like powder on steak.
Oh, much.
Really amps. Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I've used that. I've recently used orange zest,
Mm, yeah.
which I think is pretty good. Do you normally opt for alcohol infused like barbecue rubs and stuff like that? I mean, how does that enhance it? I don't. How does it
Yeah,
help?
so that whole process was kind of like something that we stumbled upon in the beginning with Spiceology a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Adding alcohol, like powdered alcohol, into seasonings is not like a new concept. So there's been a lot of like adding bourbon extract more or less has not necessarily been, it's been done a lot. The beer one was a relatively newer idea when we came around with it, but it still had been around for a little while. The thing I will say is like, I personally love adding alcohol into food because I think that alcohol has a lot of amazing flavor to begin with. And so it
Mhm.
is a good way of adding moisture onto your food to keep it well flavored while also like adding a lot of flavor. So instead of like spritzing with water or even beef broth or whatever you're going to do, which is still fantastic to give moisture, I like spritzing with beer. We have this pork butt on. Traditionally, I would add like a little bit of beef broth with some beer into our foil for when we put it back in for the crutch to get it really like shreddable.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that all of them add different flavors. I love adding, I won't do it today, but I love adding like cider to pork to give it like apple and pork just works really well. So I think that those are flavor profiles that can work really well. Beer and bourbon tend to work for red meats a lot. But it tends to be for things that, in my opinion, take a lot longer to cook or they are going to absorb that flavor. So I'm not necessarily adding anything to like grilled steak unless it's in the seasoning.
Okay. What did you say before? Did you say sire?
Cider, yeah, like spiked
Oh,
cider.
cider. Oh. I was like, what is sire? I haven't heard of that. Yeah, that sounds delicious. What would you say is the biggest mistake you think people make when grilling like veggies? Because sometimes I want them really
Yeah.
quickly, and I know they take a little bit more time.
Yeah. Funny enough, I do eat my vegetables. Uh, my page
Someone
looks like I only eat meat.
also diet? Yeah.
um, so don't worry. My wife is a fitness instructor, part time. So
Okay.
she very much makes sure that I eat well. Yeah, vegetables are unique. I think that one of the biggest things that we've done is that we've found a flavor profile that works for us, and then we just kind of replicate that onto most of our vegetables. So whether it's asparagus or green peas or broccoli or really anything, we tend to add like a little bit of acidity, whether it's lemon juice or red wine vinegar, and then a little bit of salt, a little bit of butter, and then red chili flakes. And we just like we repeat that over and over and over again. I don't think that I'm the best person to come up with creative vegetable recipes, but I have learned that adding like a little bit of fat and a little bit of acidity just really like takes vegetables to the next level.
I've been adding red wine. It's
Yeah.
like I drink a little bit and then I put it in the pan and then it goes back and forth. But it's really good with vegetables.
Oh yeah. I believe that.
So let's talk about what's next for you. I know you have on the entrepreneurial side of things. Are there any other consumer products in the works?
Yeah.
I know you have the seasonings, and then you have one other thing that I'm blanking on.
Yeah, so we just launched a new brand called Fire.
Yeah, the hot sauces. That's what I was thinking
Yeah,
of.
so we're starting with hot sauces, but we're hot sauces is just like a little teaser. We're a small company, it's locally run, good people. In fact, the guy who started Spiceology, a good friend of mine, Pete Taylor, is the guy who's helping me
Hmm.
start this. Yeah, we're starting with hot sauces, but we have our eyes set on some bigger things. We're gonna
Ooh.
start in provisional kind of food stuff like sauces and such, and then we're slowly gonna be moving our way into some bigger things. But just takes time. It's gonna be a little bit before we're able to do all the big things, but we got a lot of stuff in the works. So very excited about that one. I don't intend on making a cookbook like another one maybe in like 5 years or something like that, but who knows what I'll be doing in 5 years. And then
Yeah.
the seasonings, we've had a ton of success with the seasonings. We'll see what kind of happens from here. I feel like I've scratched a lot of the issues that I wanted to do in the seasoning world, and now I have a couple little one-off seasoning concepts that I would love to go after.
Mhm.
But for this year, I'm probably done. And then next year, I might come out with like a single launch or maybe two. But outside of that, it's pretty good. Otherwise than that, though, I mean, we're really just pushing on trying to be more and more creative in making usable content on our website and giving people like really good ways to create the recipes at home. A lot of people love to, if they're going to cook anything, they're going to probably search for it on Google. And maybe I'm just
Mhm.
too millennial in thinking that. But I think that
Do it.
everybody wants like they find something interesting, they want to cook it. It's, in my opinion, a little easier to just search the same recipe title on Google and find a legitimate recipe with everything written out in the same video. So I'm just trying to make
Yeah.
my content as user friendly as possible. And as we kind of grow, and it'll be interesting to see. I think that we'll be slowly toning back how much content we're creating because the world of social just doesn't need 3 recipes a week anymore. People want better quality recipes, but less of them. So that's what we're going to be doing slowly over time, and yeah, see what sparks the interest. I feel like I've scratched a lot of the itches that I started with. In fact, in about a month, it'll be 7 years since I started over the fire cooking. Um, and
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, I think they say if you make it to 7 years with your business, you're more likely to make it another 10 than you are to like fail. So
Mm.
I don't know if that's true. That's what my sister said. So who knows if that's real or not,
So it
but
must
it made me feel good.
be. I think it's true.
We'll
We'll
make it
make it
true.
true.
But yeah, yeah, that's kind of the future for Over the Fire. A lot of push into fire and making real, usable, tangible products. Growing in the seasonings, I still actually have maybe like 5 very unique seasonings. We're probably gonna keep the beer infused lines where we're at and go after some
Mhm.
more just stuff that hasn't really hit the market that I think are really, really good ideas.
Do you see yourself opening a storefront when you have enough products?
Maybe at some point, it's been really great to not have a customer facing place. Everybody wants me to open like a restaurant or something like that, which I think is so funny because like why would I don't want to do that. I don't As of right now I can wake up at 9 a.m. and start cooking by 3 p.m. Like if I had a restaurant I'd be waking up at 4 a.m. every single morning. So
Yeah,
yeah, I think the storefront maybe could happen for sure, but it'll probably be a little bit before we do any of that. I'm enjoying the season of life that we're in right now.
that's fair. I will say though, I think if you opened a barbecue joint or something, it'd do really well.
I'm sure
I think
I
it
think
would.
it would too.
A lot of work.
That's just the thing. It'd be a lot of work, and we have a lot of fun just feeding our family and friends, and all our friends. Sure, my friends have been really good sports. They've eaten a lot of really cold food, and they've been a
Hmm.
part of a lot of photo shoots, and they've helped a lot. So I feel like I already have a restaurant with them.
Yeah,
Um, but overall,
no, yeah, you're 100% committed and it's your absolute dream. Otherwise, don't put yourself through
yeah, and those are the guys that like I always say I'm just like a fire cooking enthusiast. And I'm just a cook. I'm not a chef. Like a chef, in my opinion, has this desire to like feed people all the time. And I know everybody has different definitions of a chef, but that's what I would say is somebody that legitimately has like a restaurant or something that is feeding people all day, every day. And I just
that.
don't have that desire. I love the exploration of food. I love creating content, and I love kind of doing unique things over open pit fire. But I also don't like, I don't want to have smoke 15 briskets every, you know, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. All right, I have a short game for you if you're into it, just to kind of wrap up the podcast. I do it with every single
Cool.
guest. It's basically like a little lightning round. So I'm going to name three popular food trends right now, and you're going to tell me if it's a smash or pass
Okay.
kind of deal. Got it. All right. Number one, compound butter.
Smash.
I know, I love compound butter too. What's your go to?
I tend to do chopped parsley, red chili flakes, and like baked garlic, and then I'm mixing that in.
Nice. All right. Number two, surf and turf. I feel like you're going to say yes to this.
Yeah, smash. I will say this: it's definitely a smash. Surf and turf. This is gonna probably cause controversy. I think that like it looks a lot better than it tastes 9 times out of 10. I think that individually the steak would be better, or individually the seafood would be better. When you combo it
Hmm.
together, it's like it's a lot of food. So
That's fair. It's also very expensive.
yeah, usually very expensive.
All right. Last one, tacos on the grill.
Ooh, I mean smash. It depends on the taco. Are we talking like smash tacos, like we're cooking them on the grill, or we're making like grilled meat for tacos?
No, cooking them on the grill, not grilled meat for tacos.
I'd say smash. Like smash burger tacos are very good.
Okay. I honestly haven't done that, and I think I looked at your page and I think you did it.
Yeah, we have.
But I've never thought to do that, so it looked really good. My last and final question for you. If there is one cooking utensil, product, or appliance that you think everyone should splurge on, what would it be and why?
Ooh. So I'll give you one that I think every person should just have in general,
Okay.
and then one that I think you could splurge on. The one that I think everybody should have in general is go onto Amazon and buy welding gloves.
Okay.
Welding gloves can take temperatures up to like 15, 1600 degrees.
Oh, wow.
And they are, if you want to get into open fire cooking, I highly recommend having welding gloves. They're just going to save, you can move logs with them, touch the fire with them, move searing hot cast iron skillets. Like they're just really a lifesaver, and they keep you very safe, and they make you feel very confident when dealing with the fire. So I think
Hmm.
everybody should have those all the time. From a like just something that's really cool or unique, man, I really do think the Brio grill is something that everybody could splurge on. So these guys are based out of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. John and his friend started this company. They have this
Hmm.
they're quote unquote smokeless fire pits. I say smokeless in
Okay.
air quotes because it'll never be perfect. But the concept is that the ventilation system that they have underneath like retracts the smoke and then it recombusts into the fire. So
Oh.
it always is kind of circulating in. So uh, like someone Solo Stove utilizes their patent for this. So they have the patent, but the Brio is the one who invented it, and they're American made company. They're really amazing, but they are expensive. And they have grills that are portable or grills that you can, set in as a centerpiece in your backyard, but they're fire pits that can be grills. So I think that that's the cool thing I like about the Brio is that they are something that you can cook your steak, do everything you want to do, and then when you're done, pull off the grill and pull off the post that you use for having the grill grate up there, and you
Mhm.
can have a fire pit, and you can drink beer or cider or wine or whatever next to it. You can make s'mores. Like it's just very
Oh, nice.
utilitarian grill for sure.
Yeah. S'mores sounds so good.
Oh yeah, maybe
I
not in this heat,
haven't had s'mores.
but
Yeah, not in your heat.
no, definitely not.
Definitely not. I honestly, whenever someone says grill to me, have you watched The Office?
Of course. I'm trying to think of what scene though.
The George Foreman grill
Oh
when
yeah,
he like burns his foot.
yeah.
That
Waking
is
up
the
to
first thing
this
I
the
think of.
smell of bacon every morning. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, and he like put the whatever wrap, a bubble wrap around his foot. Classic. I can't
Classic.
not think of the George Foreman
That's fair.
grill.
Very fair.
Not to not to dismiss your wonderful answer. All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this. This was really fun.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. You can follow Derek Wolf at Over the Fire Cooking on Instagram to keep up with his latest barbecue and grilling recipes.
Cool.
Is there anything else you'd like to mention?
No, no, you can find me at Over the Fire Cooking everywhere on all major platforms,
All of the platforms that we discussed, even Pinterest.
even Pinterest.
Hey, fellow foodies, thanks for listening. Don't forget to leave me a review. And while you're at it, make sure to follow me at Livvin for Food Pod on Instagram or TikTok, or email me at livinforfoodpod@gmail.com. Let me know what you're cooking up this week, which guests you would like to see on the podcast, or tell me your opinions on the latest viral food trend. Until next time.